All right, hello everybody. KVUE Chief Meteorologist Hunter Williams here. Here in Austin, Texas, our weather is really calm the next couple of days. We enjoy low humidity, cool mornings, but we continue to track Helene, which is now on the verge of making its official landfall in the Big Bend region of Florida. It is still a Category 4. Winds are at 140 miles per hour. So, of course, our thoughts are with all those in Florida, in Georgia, and ultimately the Carolinas that will be affected by this system here over the next 24 hours plus. Okay, so let me show you what is going on right now. Again, it is a Category 4 as of the 9 o'clock Central Time update. Winds are 140. Speed picks up. Now, that's going to be a factor. We'll talk about why in a moment. North-northeast at 24. The pressure continues to drop, now down to 939 millibars. We are waiting for the official call on landfall from the National Hurricane Center. They haven't given us the official time and location yet, but as you can see, the northern eye wall essentially now has moved on shore. This is very close to Perry, Florida. And as these core winds move on shore, of course, that's when things really ramp up. They have issued a rare extreme wind warning as this system is landfalling. And in addition to, of course, the heavy rain and the wind as the core moves on shore, there is a tremendous storm surge risk along into the right-hand side of the center of this storm. Here's the situation with the tropical alerts. This is also pretty remarkable, I'll tell you. Of course, we're here in Austin, Texas right now. Before I came here to Austin, worked in Central Georgia in Macon, and it is not every day that you have a hurricane warning. In effect, for Macon, Georgia, of course, Hurricane Michael, Hurricane Irma prompted tropical storm warnings for Macon and parts of southern and central Georgia, but a hurricane warning going up that far north, that is not a common sight. You can see tropical storm warnings go into North Georgia, into the Carolinas, into South Carolina, and even the high terrain of North Carolina. And that is going to be a spot to watch, not just for the wind threat, but a really significant flood risk in the mountains of the Carolinas. We'll talk about that in a second as well. The intensification of this storm has been pretty remarkable. If you've been on social media, you've probably heard the phrase rapid intensification tossed around. The official criteria for what we call rapid intensification is a storm increases its max sustained winds by at least 35 miles per hour in the span of 24 hours. So in one day, the winds go up 35 miles per hour or more. That has easily happened here. Yesterday, during the evening, winds were at about 85 miles per hour, and now we have max sustained winds that are coming on shore at 140 miles per hour. Just remarkable. Here's the latest cone. The problem with the forward speed that we talked about earlier, obviously, the longer that a tropical system is over land, the more that it weakens, right? They strengthen over the ocean, they weaken over land. When they're moving this fast, though, it carries the higher level wind impacts farther inland. And that is why you have a hurricane warning that goes up to about Macon, Georgia, because it's going to take a while for things to spin down. And because the system is moving so fast, those stronger winds make it farther inland. And then we have a weakening system goes North Georgia into that far western tip of North Carolina. Then it gets sucked into an upper level system, and the remnants will weaken over Tennessee and eventually into Kentucky. We know this about landfalling tropical systems. If you are on the dirty side of the storm, tornadoes will be an issue. So that's the right hand or the eastern side of the storm. So through the rest of tonight, Jacksonville, Florida, up through coastal Georgia, into Charleston, South Carolina, and even into southern North Carolina, a level 3 enhanced risk. Then the level 2 goes into parts of central Georgia where there have been tornado issues there as well. The level 1 goes up to about the Atlanta area. Then tomorrow, as the system moves inland, that threat continues. This time the enhanced risk is for parts of South Carolina and North Carolina through the day on Friday. In addition, of course, to the big storm surge along the coast, the wind threat moving inland, rain is going to be a huge aspect of this. It's been a really unfortunate setup because days ahead of Helene, this stalled frontal boundary came into Georgia and the Carolinas. So there has already been, as you can see, these are the 48-hour totals just over the past 2 days. There's already many pockets that have eclipsed a half foot of rain, and the core impacts of Helene have not even gotten here yet. And that's why there's a rare high risk for flooding through the rest of tonight, which goes from the Florida Big Bend region and the Florida Panhandle into the interior portions of Georgia, then eventually into the higher terrain of the Carolinas. And then tomorrow, as the system continues to move inland, it's going to be the mountains of North Carolina that will be the spot to watch. So here is the graph model. This is model projection is not perfect, but it's been pretty consistent, has a pretty good idea with the system where the core will be moving into southern Georgia and eventually central Georgia. Bringing the wind threat with it, obviously, bringing that threat for heavy rain into places that do not need more rain. And speaking of, watch this as we go into early tomorrow morning, those core impacts right over the mountains of the Carolinas where there's already been too much rain. So it's going to be a really, really significant flood threat for those spots. And then eventually there's an upper level low just west of where the system will be moving in. So it gets wrapped into that, and then the remnants of it will be kind of swirling away over Tennessee and Kentucky as we get into the weekend. Future view rainfall. This is from the graph model that I showed you. Again, it's not perfect, but it gives you an idea where an additional 2 to 5 inches plus of rain is possible on top of what has already fallen. That's why the flood threat continues. And then you see the yellow over the higher terrain of the Carolinas. That's where another 6 to 10 inches of rain is possible on top of what has already fallen. Again, the flood threat's going to be a huge concern. Wind speeds as the system moves inland, again, because of the forward speed of the storm, these stronger winds will certainly make it into South Georgia, and it's possible we still have hurricane-type winds that make it into places like Macon, Georgia, and Central Georgia. This particular model won't be perfect, but by tomorrow morning it has close to 70-mile-per-hour wind gust in Augusta up towards Athens, Georgia, and then again, eventually the system's going to get absorbed into that upper-level low. So that is what we have for you. Again, we are waiting on the official word of landfall, but it's going to be Category 4 Helene making landfall close to Perry, Florida, with winds of 140 miles per hour, minimum pressure of 939 millibars. Again, we are here at KVUE at Austin, Texas. Our weather is really quiet the next several days, but our thoughts are with all of those in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas who have been impacted and will continue to be impacted by this storm. Y'all have a good night and stay safe.